Hi everyone, this is Kevin with My Shop Assist. In this video, I'm going to go over how to manage a project, or as we call it, a job in My Shop Assist. And to begin, there are a couple different ways to create a job. I'm going to start on this jobs page, or also called the zones page for us. And I do have a video, a separate video, how to manage the, or how to operate the zones page. And I also have a video on how to do it through the calendar, so I'm not going to show that. But essentially, you just click on a day on the calendar, and the Add Job screen will pop up. But we're going to start on this the zones or jobs page. So obviously we have estimates, and we have active jobs, and we have completed jobs. You can start a job in either the estimates or the active jobs column. You can't start a completed job. Basically, these are one of these active jobs that has been marked done. But what we're going to do is we're going to start by adding an estimate in here. So you can click the little plus button. If you have an existing customer, their name will show up in here. If it were a new customer, you could just fill in all the information: first name, last name, email, alternate email, phone number, address, whatever you need. The next step would be to put in a vehicle information. So if they have a vehicle, it'll be in here. If it's a new vehicle, you just click Add New, and you can use your make model. In this newest version, we do have a vehicle database in here, so you can actually pull from that vehicle database. And it does have trims as well. It only goes back to 1990, so if you're doing older stuff, all you have to do is just manually type it in, and it will add it to your database. And in this case, for an estimate, we just do the first three steps. So put a customer in, put a vehicle in, if you have a vehicle. Alternatively, you can configure the shop to use a title instead. And then all you have to do is just, if you want to put some notes in here or mileage for anything, and then just click the create button. And so that has created us our first estimate. From here, what you would normally do is just add some tasks and parts to it. You do that with these buttons in here. So like add task, if I want to do a head gasket, I'll select this one here. And in this case, I actually have them grouped, and I'll show you how to do that in another video. But if we add it, we've got the head gasket task. I've got it grouped with it machine shop valve job and a machine shop service head. And I also have some parts in here, the head gasket and some oil. You could also just individually add things like rotate tires. Or you can do, even for more generic stuff, I use miscellaneous labor a lot. And you can do things like replace driver taillight. And so you got some tasks in here. You see we got parts. If you wanted to add a part that wasn't already on here, you just click the add part button. 2.4 liter head gasket. There we go. And you can see that was added in here. And so on the estimate, since it's not assigned to anybody, or there's no scheduling involved or no timers, it's just going to be basically like what looks like a work order. And this thing can be emailed to people, so you can email it to the customer, and you can CC it to other people, or include the PDF of the estimate, which is what you'd normally want to do. You can also print it if you need to, or download a PDF and mail it that way. So if you want to reorder anything, you can just grab the three dots and move them around, and that will reorder things. If you need to edit anything for this, like the customer information or the vehicle information, you just click on these up here. So that will edit the vehicle information, and this will edit the customer information. But essentially, if we go back to the jobs page, we have our estimate in here. And since this customer may approve it and we want to start working on it, how do we get it over to this active column? And the way we do that is you just go into it and click Actions, Create Job. And that's going to give you a few more things up along the top panel here. So obviously, we've got our customer information, we got our vehicle information. The job details now is going to allow us to assign it to somebody and put it in a zone if we want. And then we got some more tabs over here. So what I'm going to show you is the scheduling one. If we had created this job from the calendar, the start and stop date would have already been added in here. We can either click in here and schedule it that way. We can also click on the mini calendar here, and it will populate the days. If you need to do hours as well as just a day, you can set the specific time that it's coming in if you want to. For most shops, if you're like a performance shop, time that something's scheduled is not often used. It is used if you're like running a tight dyno schedule or like a car stereo shop or something where you're doing a lot of turnover really fast. Then it's much more common. But for stuff that's, hey, I need some cams and, a clutch installed and a tune, it may be there for 3 days. You're not worried about what time it came in. You're just scheduling it on a day. And that's how most people wind up doing it. If you're doing reminders, you can do an email or text message reminder to the customer of when the appointment is. I'm just going to keep on going to the next step. This inspection tab, this is a completely customizable like pre-vehicle inspection. If you click the little clipboard up here, you can create a list. Okay, I've put 3 things in here. And now we have a pre-vehicle inspection. These items will remain with the shop moving forward. So every job from now on will have the option to fill out these 3 inspection items. You can always edit it and add more or remove them if you want. But when you get the vehicle in physically in front of you, you can now put in your notes. Mark it as completed. And you can put in pictures as well. So if you need to upload pictures, you can click this and upload a picture to it. So if you're doing a walk around and documenting the vehicle before you get going on it, this is where you would put it. And the last step of this is going to be the waiver. So if you have a legal waiver, that's in the shop settings, it'll appear here. And then you can get a signature from a person standing in front of you when they're dropping the vehicle off, and hit save. So that's the steps for creating a new creating a new job. And now that this is a job, even though it's looking at the work order, we can click the job button. And you can see this is where technicians are going to be working from. So anytime a technician logs in and looks at this job, this is what they're going to see. If we look at it from the job view, we have this GR Supra is one we're working on. If you were to click it in here, it brings you straight into the job view. Okay, so now that we're inside the job view, I'm going to show you the different ways to edit stuff. So again, just like the estimates, if you need to edit the job, you can just click on the title, or you can click on the customer information, or you can click on the vehicle information. But now we have a couple more options. We can change who it's assigned to right here. Do we want to apply to all unfinished tasks? No, but we are going to make this one assigned to Kevin. So you can see each one of these tasks has a user you can assign things to. If you need to reschedule it from inside of the job, you can do that here. And if you need to change what zone it's in, you can do that here. So, and just like the work order view and the estimate, you were able to reorder stuff. And one thing to note is we now allow you to reorder the job independently of the work order. So you can actually come in here and reorder these guys as well. And you can move the parts around as well if you need to. And these will not affect the work order view. So the work order view is its own list. And just like on the estimate, you can also add tasks or add parts into it. So if you want to add another task, or if you need to add another part. And these parts will get added at the bottom, and you can drag them into the task. Likewise, you can add a part directly to a task using the Add Part button on the task. So when we're looking at this job view, when you're actually going to start working on it, each one of these tasks has a start timer and a complete button. So if you're not worried about the time on things, you can just click the completed button, and it will mark it off as completed. It'll move it to the bottom automatically, and it will gray it out like this, indicating that it's been done. We do date stamp it right here, so you can see when it was completed. But if you want to actually work on it with the timer or take any notes, all you got to do is click on the task, and it will expand it out to show you the full list of stuff you can do to this thing. So if we want to start a timer, like we're going to begin working on it, you just click the start button. and we are working on something else, so we are going to pause that one and start a new one. And so now we've got a timer running here. You can see it's now become a stop button, and we got a red 1. That means we're working on something. Along the bottom left here, we do see that we, who are logged in as Dyno Tuner, we have the 2010 Toyota Supra we're doing an engine head gasket on. So that's how you track what you're doing on the thing. The description is really the primary indicator of what you need to do to the job. So generally when you're taking the estimate in and you need to take notes or indicate what you're going to be doing, you type that here. So we've got our description of what we're going to be doing. As your technician works on this thing, what you would want to do is you would want to add comments. And these comments are going to be user stamped and time stamped. So as they are working on it, you will be able to see what notes you've done. And if your technicians are good at tracking notes, it's really, really easy to follow along with the progress of a job rather than just guessing at what they did. Likewise for checklists, you can add checklist items in here. And so when you've got stuff done, you can check it off. And these will also be stamped with a date as well when you look at the work order view. If you are adding photos or files, so we can allow you to add pictures, videos, PDFs, Excel files, whatever you need to do, you can upload all that stuff in here. And you just click the plus button. Inside of the job, you can also manage all the photos and files right here. So you will be able to drag and drop them into whatever task you have. So we've got the timer running on here. If you ever need to change the pricing of it, you will click the pencil. This is a user permission-based feature, so you can configure it whether or not the technicians can view this page or not. If you don't want them seeing the price, then you don't need to enable them to be able to see this. But you can configure it from hourly, fixed, book hours, or none. And I'll go over all that in the how to make tasks and how to manage tasks video. But for this case, we have a fixed price of $720. You can prioritize tasks with the little star button here. So if you really need somebody to finish something, you can star it, and it will move the task to the top of their list in the dashboard. So if we go to the dashboard and look at Todd's list, he'll have a starred item with our Toyota GR Supra here. And if he clicks in it, you can see that this is assigned to Todd. Okay, one thing we have that is really valuable to larger projects, like say you're doing a restoration on a vehicle, we do have the ability to put folders on the job. And so in this case, the shop does not have it enabled. But if you go to Shop, go to Settings, and look for Folders, which is called Subfolders within Jobs, and hit Save. This job, if we refresh it, will then allow us to add folders to it. So now we have a little plus button on it. If we hit the plus here, we can say engine work, and maybe we'll rename this one to be tires. So we have an engine work folder and a tires folder. Let's go ahead and drag this engine head gasket into the engine work folder. Okay, we are also going to drag this machine shop over to the engine work folder. And so now if we toggle between the different folders, you can see the different tasks list. And they're all part of the same job, but you can put them in folders so that way you can represent where the work is in different areas. Very, very helpful for large projects, like I said. So restoration shops may have something like a paint and body folder. You may have a chassis. You may have suspension. You may have engine work. And you may have a bunch of tasks in each one with thousands of hours being tracked on that stuff. And it's perfectly normal, and we see that a lot with shops. Smaller, like performance shops, may not necessarily need folders because you can get most everything done in one list without being completely out of control. In addition to the folders, we also have the chat. And I do have a video on how to use this thing. But if you need to do any chat for this job, or if you want to communicate with the customer, you click the customer visible button. And that will send a text message to the customer. We have a video on how to do the chat. Just follow the link. Okay, so the obvious thing with the job view is to get this into some form of bill, essentially. So We have the work order button up along the top. If you click it, it's going to tell you this job is running timers. The work order may change. That's important to note if you're doing anything hourly, because as your guy is tracking hours, the bill should be increasing in real time. But what you've got here is you've got all the tasks with their price, just like on the estimate. And if we come down to the bottom, it will give us a total. And it's going to give us two different numbers here. You can see there's an actual number and a estimated number below it. The way that works is we've got stuff on here that is going to be essentially hourly. So like this flywheel resurfaced is set up as hourly. It's $0.00. It's $150 per hour, but we haven't tracked any time on it. So it's going to show up as 0. And since we have 0 estimated hours, it's also going to show as 0 total. And so that's going to make a big difference. And like on this miscellaneous labor here, replace driver taillight, we have 40 hours estimated at $150 an hour, and we have 0 hours recorded on it. So the estimated total is going to be 40 times 150 for $6,000. That's very important to know because you can also turn off the estimated hours on here, and it will hide it, so you actually don't know what the estimated is. I find that the estimated hours is pretty important to see, but not everybody needs to see it. But you have it there if you want to configure it. You can configure everything as taxable or not taxable, so it will total all that stuff up, and we do give a line item for the tax. And we break the invoice down by labor and parts. If you need to track payments on it, you can, of course, click into the Make Payment, select the payment type, and type the amount in. And you can see the payments on here. And these work orders, they can be exported to QuickBooks. If this shop were connected to QuickBooks, you would just click the button up here, and I will show how to do all that, as well as do the progress billing, which involves using the start and end stuff, in the work order video linked below. But I'm going to go back to the job view a second to show you a couple more features. Inside of here, the Actions button, you can copy to new customer. And what this is going to do is take this entire job and make a copy, and you can put it on anybody's or any customer's profile and give them a job for it. It's basically duplicating the job. We have a tab for notes. It's just a pop-up that shows you all the notes, and if you want to see all the comments, it's a good way to get like an overview of what you did to the job when you're completed with it. So, and we also have this profitability report. If you click it, it's going to show you your recorded hours, and it's going to show you your revenue on labor, and it's going to divide the two to give you revenue per hour worked. Now, it's important to note in this thing we had several fixed price things, and we haven't used the timer very much because we just started it, 10 minutes ago. So it's going to have a very high revenue per hour. But if you are doing a very good job of tracking all your hours till the end of the job, you should have a pretty substantial revenue per hour, ideally higher than your hourly rate. If it's below your hourly rate, generally you're undercharging for stuff, meaning either using fixed time or you're not beating the book hours. If you're just a straight hourly shop, then it will always just be your dollar per hour shop revenue. For parts, we total up the parts. If you have quantity, or so if you have wholesale price and retail price in there, it will give you a profit on the parts. So this is a quick way for you to view if you are making money on a job. As long as your guys are tracking hours. If they're not tracking hours, you just don't know. It's kind of like, watching like a football game without a scoreboard. If you need to view other things like the customer history, we have that here. So you can see how many times you've worked on that customer's job, as well as creating task groups. This is an easier way to build packages, essentially. Like if you are doing like a stage 1 upgrade where it has an intercooler, pipes, intake, boost controller, fuel pump, and a tune, you can put all that together and you can use this to create a task group that you can recall for future use. Emailing the customer, this will give them a status update. At the bottom of the email, it will include a link for them to log in online to see the status. If you don't want the customer seeing anything, just unclick this customer visible button right here. The request authorization is the next tab next item we have on here. This is great for shops that require signatures. Most states actually do require it. We are in Texas. I am not required to do it. However, if I needed to do a mechanics lien, then I did have to have a signature. I've ran into that problem before. I hope nobody else has to. So what we have here is you can do in-person signatures and click the sign button and the signature thing will come up. And what that does is at the bottom of the work order view, so I'm going to go back to the work order view and scroll to the bottom, it shows the authorizations. You can download this PDF to view it as an invoice with the signature on it, which is what you would need in any, like to prove something like mechanics lien, the customer signed you to do the work and then didn't pay for it. That's just a good example of it. And then for other states, if you don't have a signed authorization, they actually in California don't have to pay for the work. So that's an interesting thing to note. If you do start going over the estimate, the system will actually be aware of that, and it will let you know that you need another signature if you have the signature required on. And that is a shop setting in here. So if you go to shop settings and look for require authorization, this one right here, it will have a big red text warning if you don't have a signature. Likewise, if you really want to have vehicle mileage every time, you can turn that one on as well. So we go back into the job. Go back to the job. And then the last thing, if you ever need to delete the job for any reason, you can delete it. One thing to note in this new version, we don't actually permanently delete it. It's just hidden, which means we can recall it if you accidentally delete it. The deleting a job function is actually also a permission-based thing, so technicians can't do it unless you give them permission to do it. So that's an important thing to note. And that just about does it for the jobs. If you have any questions on how to do that, just let us know via email, phone call, or message us on the chat system. All right, thanks. Have a good day.